It's At the Controls with your host, Glenn Rubenstein.
What up? Welcome to At the Controls. This is beta episode 0.10, or alpha episode, however you want to call it, of the new Twit video gaming show. I am your host, Glenn Rubenstein. With me, as always, Tom Merritt.
Howdy.
Phoning in remotely, Brian Brushwood from an undisclosed location.
Yes, that very much resembles a trailer at the beach in South Texas.
And behind the boards, of course, we have Alex Gumpel. Welcome to the show, everybody. This week we're going to talk about what's happening in the world of video and PC gaming. Let's start the show off with the news. In an interview with Forbes this week, Nintendo President Reggie Fils-Aimé revealed a few new details about the Wii U. While an exact release date has yet to be set, the system won't be released until sometime after April of 2012. It was also confirmed that the system will coexist in the marketplace alongside the original Nintendo Wii, as Nintendo intends to support both platforms. And while Fils-Aimé insists that the Wii U controller is not meant to duplicate the functionality of a tablet, he did say that Netflix streaming to the touchscreen controller is at least a theoretical possibility.
Asher Baker, a developer of plugins for various Valve games, has come under fire through his latest Team Fortress 2 mod, Free to be Kicked, which is intended to keep free-to-play Team Fortress players from playing on private TF2 servers. While only a dozen or so private servers are currently running the mod, there has been quite a backlash from the TF2 community, including what Baker claims have been death threats. While Valve has yet to weigh in, Baker insists that he's not necessarily against free-to-play, but sees his mod as an optional restriction similar to limits placed on players with a high ping time. But don't let this dissuade you from checking out TF2 now that it's free-to-play. And hey, all it takes is one microtransaction to bump you up to premium status.
How about bumping yourself up to PlanetSide 2? Was officially announced at Sony's online fanfare on July 7th. There's 3 races in the game to choose from: Terran Republic, New Conglomerate, those are the rebels, and Vanu Sovereignty, the alien race. With land and air vehicles, this game sounds like a mashup of StarCraft, Star Wars, and Halo. So far, they haven't established the business model yet. Possibly monthly subscription like WoW. Beta's coming out soon. We'll find out more then.
This week, Kotaku posted an interview with the creative team behind Deus Ex: The Human Revolution. In the interview, the team says that they took inspiration from Blade Runner and recreated a whole new city before dirtying it up. Now, we have some video footage, I believe, and according to the team, creating a world where faux advertisements are everywhere meant that it was not an easy task to make sure that the environment feels uncluttered. I know we checked this game out at E3, one of the many titles that we're looking forward to, and just looking at the video footage, I can't wait to play it.
It's golden.
It is. If you want to check out the entire interview, check out Kotaku. They've got all the information right there.
Hey, did you guys notice that there's a little spaceship flying up to the heavens today? Did anyone notice that? Minor news item.
Made me cry.
Today saw the final launch of the space shuttle Atlantis, and the Huntsville Times ran a list of fun facts about the ship. Perhaps most interesting to you and me, besides the fact that now flying in a space shuttle is science fiction to us again. Quote, the flight computer aboard the shuttle has less than 1% of the power of an Xbox 360 game console. Astronauts load programs directing the phases of a mission, liftoff, orbit, landing into the computer one at a time after removing the program for the previous segment. Why hasn't NASA upgraded the computer? The agency values its 30-year history of reliability. Wow, that's not said completely unironically. That said, astronauts don't go into space with only one computer. Crew laptops and other laptops also make the trip.
Also, no red ring of death.
Yes.
One hopes.
Theoretically, there was an O-ring of death in the 80s.
Hey! That's too soon.
Yeah. Dude, you had to go there, Brushwood. Jesus.
Still too soon. Maybe not. Let's move on to some control issues. You got other issues. Control issues. Is there video? It says video. Oh. That's a lie.
Control issues.
It's time for the control issues. That is not what our transition will sound like. Battlefield 3 blog reveals the 4-player classes: Assault, Engineer, Support, and Recon. No Medic. Brian, you picked this one out. What's your control issue here?
Well, you know what? Here's the deal. I was a huge, tremendous fan of Battlefield 2, and I play a crap load of, one metric crap load of Team Fortress 2. So I'm really surprised to see them condense everything down to just 4 classes. Now, one of the things that they're doing is they make a big deal saying that they want you to be able to play your player any way you want. So there's no medic class. So instead what will happen is the assault class, which are the fast guys who are doing the running and gunning, they can heal and revive teammates. But likewise, it's the support team that is more likely to be doing the healing as well.
I want to be an assault medic.
Well, but if you think about it, their justification is, if you think about it, people out on the front lines could actually, you would expect somebody on the front lines to be able to revive a teammate or apply a medical
Sure.
kit, right?
Yeah.
You wouldn't expect somebody to get hit and just sit there, wait, shouting medic over and over and over again. And likewise, so they're bringing elements and putting them in other words, and you can customize your character to be more of a medic on the assault side or be more of a medic on the support side.
I guess the support thing makes sense, right? Because you can be you can specialize as a medic and you're a support person. So I don't know.
I mean, it blurs the lines, which sounds kind of. I mean, I don't know. The medic class. Now, I know some people really like to play as a medic, similar to people that really like to play as a healer.
It's the classic tank, healer, DPS. You know, that covers pretty much every game.
Maybe I'm just more aggressive than that.
Yeah.
But that's always the role that doesn't interest me.
But it's weird when everybody can be a healer.
Yeah. That's one thing I liked about DC Universe Online is that they split it to where every class had a DPS functionality. So you could do DPS, or you could respec and do either healer, tank, or battery.
Yeah.
You know, which was kind of cool.
But I guess everybody could always be DPS. You just might not be very good at it.
Yeah, of course. But I think it's nice to have the flexibility. I don't know. I mean, if I'm going to get really invested in developing a character long term, I don't want to be limited to just one function.
Well, and I'm sure it's the case where keep in mind, this is a multiplayer game. You play it the way you play Team Fortress 2. I don't anticipate that we're looking at giant tech trees the way you would get from a Star Wars: The Old Republic or World of Warcraft type thing. But there will be ways to customize more towards playing as a medic or more towards playing as a as a run and gun front lines kind of guy. One of the two new mechanics they mentioned in the blog that I like a lot. One of them is the bipod, which is basically for heavy weapons. These are the ones that blast all over the place and tend to have, they compensate for the heavy firepower by having it be, they tend to be real rickety and fly all over the place, heavy recoil, low accuracy. What you could do, though, is if you go prone and enable the bipod mode, you now have stability to where you're able to lay down fire. Now, of course, you're immobile while you're doing this, but now you can lock in a position and you get increased accuracy, lower recoil. And they also added another tactic called suppressive fire. And this is from the blog. It says, suppressive fire is a new in-game mechanic that changes how you can play the game. When you lay down fire in close vicinity to an enemy, the incoming barrage will show up as a graphical blur effect on his screen to stress him and let him know it's not safe to pop out from behind cover. My commentary, I would imagine also it makes it more difficult for him to pop out and be accurate if everything's getting all blurred and crazy. Just as importantly, this mechanic also affects this character's in-game firing accuracy, making him less of a threat by using real-world tactics. Better yet, you get team play experience points for doing so. So this sounds like a fun way for you to, if you come in as support, you can find a position, you got somebody hiding behind a car or whatever, you could go into bipod mode and just keep hammering him, keeping him locked down there, pinned down, so that your buddies are able to go around and flank him. Then the last other thing they mentioned is that they're making some changes to the recon class, where right now what they're doing is recon is essentially the sniper. And the problem with snipers is they're awesome if you have a good one on your team and he happens to be picking everybody off. But outside of that, when you're in the middle of the heat of battle, they're off in some tower or on some mountain playing their own mini game of whack-a-mole, and it's really frustrating because it's not very helpful. So they're adding some spotting capabilities with him. So even though he's not there in the fight with you, the actual intel of what he's gathering is useful to everyone else.
But that doesn't happen in real life.
Yes, no, it definitely does, though, because in real life we don't run around with heads-up displays on all the time. But I think that it would be similar to, for example, the engineer in Team Fortress 2 doesn't necessarily get points for bothering to put up teleportation inputs and exits. They're extremely helpful to the team in that they get you logistically up to where the heat of battle is much faster. Likewise, maybe the recon doesn't get points for spotting or being in a place where he's able to see where the characters are. But the moment they're in this field of view, they could pop up on other people's radar and maybe show up as a notification that is, of course, automatically goes. Automatically the notification could show up. But within the context of the game, it could be as though the recon has spotted him and radios you to let him know he's around the corner.
I like Web1 in the chat room says, DICE knows gameplay balance. I wouldn't second guess them at this point. Mm-hmm. I'm just looking forward to playing it. Yeah. I think the more that I read about Battlefield 3, it just makes me wish it would hurry up and come out already. And we've got a while. When's it coming out? In late October, I think?
October, yeah, dude. And I cannot wait. And I don't know what it is about late fall games coming out that gets me all nostalgic. Maybe it's because I think back to when the Orange Box came out and it just ruled my life during as winter came in.
Winter is coming. Also coming, lots of Kinect mods, and there's a video, Brian, that you found on YouTube. Where'd you find this?
This came from PCGamer.com. It popped up on the radar. And again, unfortunately, I didn't write down any of the details on it. They're all up there on the YouTube
site. Now, is
site.
this an actual mod, or is they're just faking this?
No. This is a team of researchers. They got a name. Hang on, let me actually call up the name of this system on here. It's called FAST.
For those on the audio version, it is a Kinect control for World of Warcraft where you are leaning forward to run, it looks like, and then you actually like reach out with your hands to cast spells and choose attacks.
Yeah, and I cannot think of anything quite so awkward. Let me get the details on it. There we go.
I didn't see him loot.
University.
Does he actually bend down to loot?
I don't know, but this is called the Flexible Action and Articulated Skeleton Toolkit, and basically, as PC Gamer calls it, a piece of free middleware that allows off-the-shelf PC game to use motion sensing technology. But looking at this, it's like this is how rudimentary the controls are for the Kinect compared to the nuance of the mouse and keyboard interface. Makes you realize how far we've come in 30 years of this and how far we have to go when it comes to motion control to make this either intuitive or even fun.
He took out those crocolisks pretty easy.
Well, I like that Knox Harrington in the chat room says, hey, I was wondering how I could look even dorkier while playing WoW.
Yeah. Okay. You're let's assume you're not doing this in front of a lot of people.
Which is good because, if there's a problem from World of Warcraft, it's atrophy. So I think that, this could really help with that.
All kidding aside, because there's a million jokes we could make, and we promise. But do you want to be able to do motion control in a game like this? It looks like really cool to me that they figured out how to mod it. I love the idea of it.
Yeah.
And there's a certain, I'm split because there's a certain part of me that says, one of the cool things about Warcraft is feeling, or any MMO actually, is feeling like you're in another world. This helps immerse me in that other world. At the same time, it looks like it's actually harder to control than what I'm used to.
A couple of years ago, I'm sorry, Brian, what were we going to say?
Oh, no, you go ahead. But I did want to give a +1 on that comment. I don't think this puts you any closer on the world. I think this is a barrier to feeling like you're in the game.
Well, and I think a couple of years ago, I dropped like $400 on a touch-sensitive keyboard that didn't have keys and it recognized gestures. And I was doing a lot of Photoshop work at the time and video editing. I was like, oh, this will be amazing, And it was the thing that Brian and I have talked about before of, oh, this is one step closer to Minority Report, which is weird that is the reference for all futuristic computing interfaces, a movie that I thought was kind of slightly above average at best.
It's a much better short story.
Yeah. Well, as is mostly the case with Philip K. Dick, right? Yeah. Isn't that has there been a really good where the movie was better than the short story?
You can make an argument about Blade Runner, but that's the only one I can think of.
So anyhow, I got this keyboard, dropped $400 on it, and found that it was just completely counterintuitive trying to learn all these new ways of doing things when I was just very used to being proficient using a standard mouse and a keyboard. And I think that with motion controls for something that you're so used to playing in a certain way, I think it's the same. They're going to have the same end result.
I guess you could get over that if you just learn to use the new way, or if you started playing that way. But even then, I just feel like it's the same thing where it is more efficient to play WASD than it is to use a game controller most of the time.
Although at 10 years in, I think there are some people that are really good with two dual analog
They are,
sticks.
but the studies have shown that it's just more efficient to do it that way because it's less. Where
were those studies done? I'm actually curious.
We should find out actually,
or we should do a study.
Maybe we should. We'll do it at our LAN party.
Yes, that would be fantastic.
But I just feel like the actual having to move around in real space is less efficient than the keyboard. Go ahead, Brian.
Well, and this is true, I believe, of all the motion controls from the Kinect on down. And granted, when it comes to a console, right now it's a very rudimentary novelty, and it's cute for what it is. But in general, all these motion control devices are elegant solutions for problems I have yet to encounter. I don't know what it is they're finally fixing. And that goes even for really good applications like the 6 Sense controllers with the Portal 2 DLC. It's awesome looking. But at no point during all of Portal 2 did I ever think, oh man, you know what I really need is to be able to reach out with my hands and stretch a box around or something like that.
See, I actually thought with that controller, the Hydro controller for the Portal 2 DLC, I actually thought that looked fantastic. However, it's the lack of native support in other games that would make me hesitate to drop the $140 or whatever it is to buy one. But I thought it was really cool how they enhanced the Portal 2 gameplay that way. And I think that's the key with whether it's motion controls, whether you're talking about something like the Kinect or something like the Wii or something like the Hydro controller. I think what it comes down to is how does it enhance the gameplay? And I think the problem with it getting too realistic is the reason why we play video games is to accomplish things we cannot do in real life. So how do you maintain that hyper reality, moving it into using yourself as the controller?
When you're actually limited by yourself.
Exactly.
You only have 2 arms.
And when you start exaggerating it, it starts to seem kind of weird. Well, it's like if I jump, is it going to make it jump higher? And then you just have to work out sort of what the ratio is of that. I mean, there's a lot of interesting stuff that can be done with motion controls, but at this point, I think it's still at best a well-implemented gimmick. I don't think it's like having cybernetic implants or something as cool as that.
That I would go for.
Let me ask you guys this. I actually like the Kinect in the living room because it's cute and simple and the games are novel. But I cannot think of a single use for it in the PC. Now, in this case, you have a guy standing back 8 feet away from a giant screen to play World of Warcraft, which is, I think we can agree, a way that nobody will ever play WoW. And they won't play Star Wars: The Old Republic that way. Nobody will play any in-depth PC game that way. Is there any implementation that you could think of for PC usage that would use a Kinect device?
You mean instead of it's saying, well, there's games for consoles that are good with Kinect, like Dance Dance.
I have the caveat.
Yes.
I think I have the exception.
Okay.
If it's an immersive environment to where I'm surrounded on, if it's like holodeck, if I'm surrounded on all sides even by screens, then definitely feeling like you're there and having it react to your movements, that would be cool and useful.
I could see this for as an assistive device. Connect to PC. Not necessarily a gaming device, but maybe where people who have carpal tunnel, arthritis, etc., use the Kinect to be able to more easily move things around without hurting themselves.
I actually really like Glenn's idea. I could picture going to the mall
because you hate people who are suffering in pain. No, I get it.
No. I like Glenn's idea because I can see going to the mall and stepping into a 4-walled chamber, and all of a sudden each wall lights up, and I'm just standing in a world, and enemies come at me, and you got 4 different Kinects that very precisely, and you just cast a spell, throwing your fingers all around you. That could be incredibly cool.
No, you're absolutely right. If you actually start to lose yourself, where you forget that you are in a device and you just feel like you're in the game. That's what you're looking for. It was Microsoft. Who was it that threw this link in here? Thank you, Mike P. An Engadget article says Microsoft were the ones who did the study where they were actually playing PC gamers versus Xbox gamers internally and had to stop because the PC gamers were just killing everyone because of the control advantage.
And I would say I've seen that, especially Portal 2 is a great example of that. If you look at the videos of the incredible speedruns through Portal and Portal 2, it's almost all PC gamers that are just doing the insane midair, tossing the cube. I've tried. You can't really do that on the 360. It's not as fast. It's a little more precise in terms of having to be deliberate about your movements.
And I guess, on that topic, Glenn, if there was something you could put on your lap that allowed you to go keyboard and mouse for a game like Portal 2, would you even do it? Or do you just feel like the thumbs is just an integral part of the PS3 experience?
Well, it's interesting because I have a home theater PC setup. That is my primary gaming system. Mm-hmm. And with that, I have a decent time using wireless keyboard and mouse. But even with DC Universe Online, I hooked up a USB keyboard to the PlayStation, but that was more for chat functionality. But occasionally I would use it for powers. Just it depended on my preference. I don't know though. It's tough to imagine doing that with the same precision because with a console system, it is usually sitting further away. You don't have a desktop that you're playing on.
And Bluetooth's good, but there's still a little lag.
Yeah, it's still a little
not the
laggy.
same, yeah.
So I don't know. It would be an interesting experiment. So now some console games do support though a keyboard and mouse, if I'm not mistaken.
Do you
I've
think
never
the
really
fact-
done it before.
Yeah.
Well, because there was what was it? The Phantom was supposed to be the first console PC gaming experience. That they had their revolutionary keyboard that sat on your lap, and the keyboard tilted up slightly so that you could have the mouse underneath the keyboard. Do you remember that?
Yes, but here's the key though. I think is that when you're talking about playing with WASD and a mouse, you need to be sitting with your wrists like this. I mean, I'm exaggerating by holding them up like I'm about to do the Thriller dance, but you need
Which
to be.
he is.
Yeah.
See, told you.
Do you think?
But you need to be
do you
sitting
think that
perched
this is an
to play
inherent-
that way. I mean, it's the same problem you have with laptops. I mean, if you tried to really play, you need to
Well,
have
do
a
you know-
separate mouse, not a touchpad.
This will horrify everyone and probably get me kicked off the show. But the way I play on my Doghouse system
Yeah.
PC, I have the keyboard sitting down
Ooh.
to the right. Like, down to my right below, and I have the mouse over here to the left. And I WSD with the right, and I mouse with the left when I need it. And then I actually kind of angle myself and look at the screen off there.
But you couldn't do it with it on your lap. That's the point I'm making. Is you need a surface of some sort, or you need to actually below you instead of above you.
I
think would
actually
work better.
have it
Yeah.
below me because that gravity assists.
But I've tried that. I've tried using different
I
keyboards.
will
on my
move
lap
it onto
before.
my lap sometimes when I play Warcraft because I can't reach all the keys that I need to because it's not WASD. It's
If I
freaking
do that
everything on
during
your
a
keyboard.
first-person shooter, though, I end up knocking the keyboard
Yeah,
over.
I
It's
do
just
that
bad.
sometimes.
But with a mouse, you need a
That's
surface.
why I suck at DPS.
But you need a surface for a mouse, obviously.
Now,
Yeah.
Which
do
is
you think that this is just a fundamental difference between lean forward versus lean back gaming? Which I really like those terms.
That's
because
actually
you
interesting.
instantly
That is an
have-
interesting way to put it. Console is, I
Yeah,
think,
I
more
mean, is
lean
that-
back. PC is more
Yeah,
lean forward.
absolutely.
I guess so. I mean,
Although-
that's the idea is that when you're at your desktop, you're lean forward. When you're watching your television, you're lean back. Consoles are hooked up to televisions most of the time, so it's a lean back experience. But you're still interacting. You're still leaning forward. I mean, you don't see advertisements for games with everybody sitting way back here just chilling.
On consoles
everybody's
you
like,
do sometimes.
like, oh, I'm into
Yeah.
the game. Yeah.
Well, I think it's also depends on the experience, but I think that's an interesting dynamic. I don't think I've ever seen so much. I mean, well, I guess there's been some lean, like when I'm grinding out levels, I'm just leaning
Well, yeah.
back.
Once you start to get bored,
When I'm farming gold,
Yeah.
that's lean back gaming.
that's you make a lot of money for that. Do
Yes.
they know you're not Chinese? it's incredible the way you're able to avoid the taxes on that stuff. Okay, I'm sorry. I got us sidetracked. But yes, Brian, it's an interesting point. It's not exactly lean back and lean forward, but there is that difference between the two.
More often than not. Not universal, but I think
do
that you
have
could
to-
say. Oh, sorry.
I was going to say that I do have to agree with VQ in the chat room who says I prefer the stand-up gaming at an arcade cabinet, and that is how a true gamer games.
Speaking of which,
Save it for retro.
that's on our calendar. Maybe we should mention that
let's
first.
take a quick break and thank our sponsor for their support of show. That joke's done. Time for calendar.
Ooh, look
That's
at that.
the TNT sound effect. That'll do. Could become a universal twit calendar sound effect.
So we'll start with this. Some DLCs coming out next week that I'm excited about, and this kind of overlaps a little with news and Control Issue. L.A. Noire, the final announced DLC for L.A. Noire, is coming out on Tuesday. And from the title of the case, you should be interested in this just for the kitsch factor, if nothing else. Reefer Madness. I'm the Vice Squad.
That's brilliant,
case.
by the way. If you've never seen Reefer Madness, the show, you know that it's if you watch it, you know it fits into L.A. Noire perfectly. I mean, it's exactly right for this.
I thought you were going to say if you've never seen Reefer Madness, I recommend it.
I do. I was starting to say that, and
On
then I
Reefer.
changed. Don't have to take Reefer. It's illegal. We're not recommending that. But
Yes.
if I'm just saying.
So I've heard. But yeah, the Reefer Madness case, I'm looking forward to that. Also, though, the great story at Eurogamer.net about the development hell of L.A. Noire and everything that went on behind the scenes, just the whole kerfluffle internally with Team Bondi and the problems that they had developing the game, being in a constant crunch cycle of saying we're 6 months away from shipping, so people were working 12-hour days as the norm, 7 days a week.
They pulled it off, though.
Well, actually, if you read the story, Rockstar pulled it off.
Is that right?
Rockstar came in and heavily managed it, and it's interesting comparing it to a game like people have talked about it on Reddit a lot. I've seen this discussion. Why is Duke Nukem Forever a game that was in development hell for a very long time? Why is that coming out and being panned? Whereas L.A. Noire had probably about a 7-year development cycle, but that came out to critical acclaim, and it's interesting to read the article about just how much of that was Rockstar coming in, and also it explains a lot of stuff. I mean, one of my major complaints about L.A. Noire is it's a beautiful recreation of Los Angeles in the 1940s. However, parts of the city feel a little empty. Reading the story, you find out why does the city feel a little empty? They didn't really have a lead animator on the project for much of the development, which is why a lot of stuff was missing.
Also, there were fewer people in the 40s.
Hey, Glenn.
Yeah.
Before you guys step past L.A. Noire on the Reefer Madness DLC, let's just get a quick thumbs up, thumbs down on whether you believe there will be any actual wink exploration of the current war on drugs situation and the fact that, especially in California, especially in LA.
I can best you on this, Mr. Brushwood, Mr. Libertarian. There's already references to current drug laws and the of weird foreshadowing already in the game. And for PC gamers that are dying to check out this game, which is currently only available on PS3 and Xbox 360, it's coming to PC in the fall. Highly recommend it.
Yes.
I would put it up there. It's probably neck and neck with Portal 2 for the best game I've played this year.
Plants are crime.
And because it's an old school adventure game with a $100 million budget. So definitely check out that story if you want to find out more. Elsewhere in the calendar, coming out this week, NCAA Football 2012 from EA Sports. Coming out for the PS3 and the Xbox 360. Comes out Tuesday. I'm looking forward to it. I know with the college football games, one thing I like about them is they have way more teams, all the mascots.
Players, yeah.
I mean, if you like college football...
Ugh, why are we showing Michigan?
And I think we have someone who actually works on the NCAA franchise for EA Sports that listens to our podcast. I'm going to try and get in touch with them to see if maybe we can get them on the show.
Come on the show
next week to talk about the franchise, because I'm really interested in what it's like working on this franchise as opposed to the NFL franchise. It's interesting that it's long running, but it never quite gets the love that Madden gets. But EA puts out a very solid football game each and every year with their college football title.
Yeah, it may not have the splashy big names that you're used to,
but it's almost a deeper game, though.
But yeah, there's a lot more to explore.
I mean, it's got all the mascots. It's got all sorts of detail. I think it even has all the cool fight songs.
Also, if you get on the cover of NCAA Football 12, it doesn't kill your career.
And strangely, I don't think you're compensated. No.
Also, no, because that would make you a pro.
Yes. Also coming out on Tuesday.
Tuesday's a big day, huh?
It is. Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2 is coming out for every system known to man. And I guess
so does that mean the Wii as well as the Xbox and the PS3?
No, and the PC, I believe, and I think a portable system as well. And I'm sure there'll be some sort of portable game in addition to that. It's
Harry Portable.
Yeah, Harry Portable. Now the movie is coming out. When does it come out? This Friday or next Friday?
Oh, it's for the DS. Nintendo DS is the portable.
I believe this Friday.
Who has that in the NSFW film draft?
Sarah Lane.
Oh, she's going to kill you all. That's going to be how she wins the entire film draft.
Yeah, so it's not today, right? It's a week from today because we're recording on Friday.
Yes.
This week is Zookeeper.
Who got that in the draft?
Brian.
Yeah. Zookeeper. $500 million comedy. Greatest movie of all time.
No game adaptation of that.
There isn't yet?
I don't believe so.
Shocked.
Yeah, because there was no Paul Blart. There was no Paul Blart Mall Cop game either. Yeah, that would be awesome if just crappy movies got We're gonna have to do a special one on a really slow week. It'll just be our fantasy film and television adaptations into video games and what those games would be like.
There actually are some decent video game adaptations of film.
It's gotten better.
Yeah, it's gotten better. And GoldenEye.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, even in the olden days.
Well, all the James Bond games.
Pitfall Harry. Wait. So no.
Actually, I've got the winner of the all-time greatest, and I guess it's not a movie so much as a book tie-in, but Dune 2 is the greatest movie-related video game of all time because Dune 2 introduced the play mechanic that became
What is it with you and Dune?
Warcraft.
He's a big fan of Sting.
Always defending everything Dune. Dune, the movie, was underrated.
Dude,
Well, it was.
David
number
Lynch had
one.
a 5-hour cut
Now
that
you're
was
saying
never
the
seen.
Dune 2 video game was awesome?
Dude, it's what created the real-time strategy. You didn't have multiple players, but I remember when it came out, it was like, I remember thinking, if you could play this game against another human, this would be the greatest game ever. And 12 months later, Warcraft came out, and the original Warcraft was like, yes, it was the best.
All right.
Also,
Astro Slugs coming out for Windows. Oh, I'm sorry. No, you were going to say something else.
every week, this is what calendar turns into, is just which wacky little title. Was it Mystery of the Titanic or Titanic Mystery?
Yeah,
I think it's
Titanic
coming
Mystery.
out. Yeah, looks fantastic. Also, this weekend, for those that are listening to us live or on a repeat, the California Extreme Arcade and Pinball Expo is happening in Santa Clara, California, on Saturday and Sunday. 2-day expo features panels on topics such as restoring arcade games, plus screenings of arcade-themed movies. There's a trivia contest where you can win prizes, and there's live music, plus all the classic arcade games and pinball you can play.
That's the draw.
That
I mean,
is
all
the
this other
draw.
stuff is way cool.
Well, it's like
that you can
$40
do
for,
this.
I think, a day ticket. However, I mean, it sounds
Yeah.
cool. If I didn't have something going on this weekend, I would definitely be there.
The Arcade Museum in Alameda will be there
Mm-hmm.
with some of their best stuff. The what's the Mechanical Museum that has the arcade games? They'll be there,
Yeah.
I'm sure, with some of their stuff.
Longtime friend of mine, Dan Amrick of Activision Blizzard, used to work at GamePro and official PlayStation magazine. He's going to be there. So if you see Dan Amrick, tell him I say hi. We got to get him as a guest on here now that he's
Yeah.
working for Activision.
Absolutely.
Hopefully he can talk to us about some Call of Duty stuff. Moving on. Also, what do you have here on the calendar, Brian, about Dust?
Yeah, I
Or
ran
From
across
Dust?
this. This is they just announced a release date for this little title from Ubisoft called From Dust, and we got some video. If you could bring it up, the real action begins around like 30 or 40 seconds in, but they've got these developer diaries for it. And the announced release date looks to be, I believe, July 27th, so in just 2 weeks or so. And it looks like all of the good parts from Good and Evil, or Black and White, sorry, not Good and Evil, from Black versus White, the Peter Molyneux game, but without the annoying artificially intelligent giant monkeys. But it looks cool because, like, in order to you try to protect this tribe by blocking floods or stopping forest fires or allowing them to cross oceans with land bridges or divert rivers, and the way you do it seems really organic. Like you grab just a fistful of lava and you smear it over some mountains to make them taller, or you the fire's going, you grab a fistful of water and throw it down there. It looks simple, but it looks like it could be extraordinarily satisfying.
Yeah, it looks really. I mean, you talk about casual games on the rise and all of that sort of thing. That looks like kind of somewhere in between a serious game and a casual game.
And in the
A
chat
serious
realm,
game isn't the right
they're
word, but-
saying Populous, like Populous. Remember Populous?
yeah, I forgot.
Used to have that on my
absolutely.
Yeah,
Populous used to be back in the day. That was a hot title. I had that on my
no, I've
Amiga.
forgotten all about that. Yeah,
Why
that was
isn't
huge.
Why did that disappear as a franchise?
Somebody had to reboot that.
Somebody write a letter
Yeah,
to the
Well, that
people
was
whoever
also-
owns the rights to that. That should be a retro game 1 week. We'll do
for
Populous one
sure.
week.
Yeah, who owns that?
Was it? I think that was EA back in the day, wasn't
Was it? I mean, do they still have it? Is it abandonware?
Well, that was a creation of I believe Peter Molyneux. I believe
Yeah,
that was one
Bullfrog
of his
EA.
first.
Bullfrog's EA.
Yeah,
Yeah.
If you're listening, Electronic Arts, Populous, make it so.
bring it back.
That would be awesome.
We want it. Thank you. Yes, so that's it for the calendar, and we shall then move on into what we're playing.
B-Master in the chat room says Populous is on Xbox Live Arcade.
Oh, it is.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
I'm gonna
if you have an
check- I'm gonna
Xbox
check that
360,
out.
you can check that out. In fact, great segue into what we're playing this week. So I've got my home theater PC and gaming PC disassembled as I'm putting in a new power supply to handle my Radeon 4870, which intermittently just shuts off sometimes in the middle of graphically intense gameplay. So I've been playing a lot of games on the Xbox 360 and checking out a lot of the Xbox Live Arcade titles. First one of which is Galaga Legions DX. Brian, have you heard about this game?
No, Galaga.
It's Galaga, dude, with trippy visuals. It reminds me of kind of the high-tech overhaul that they gave to Tempest, like Tempest 2000.
Yeah, Tempest on the Atari Jaguar.
Exactly,
where they
which
had
was
the rockin' techno soundtrack.
The only worthwhile game on the Atari Jaguar. So they have Galaga Legions DX. It's an Xbox Live Arcade title. I think it's like $10. But if you like Galaga, what more can I say? It's very authentic and true to the original.
I'm a big fan of Galaga too.
Great sound effects doing that game.
I don't know about updating Galaga though. I just want to play the regular Galaga.
It's very similar.
You can get that on it.
You know, they already did that. They do you remember they had Galaga, but then they had Galaga 88, right? And Galaga 88 just had updated graphics and a slightly different gameplay mechanic. So this is like Galaga, I guess 2011. Same difference.
Can any of you accurately explain the difference between Galaga and Galaxia?
I always get them confused.
Yeah. I do too.
In my mind, they're the same game.
They almost
which is
are.
terrible. That's what they're going. Can we hear some of the sound with this, Alex? So yes, it's got the rock and techno because nothing says update like a techno music.
Well, yeah, because it's the future. Techno is perpetually the music of the future,
and it always will be.
But let's move on to the other game I've been playing, and I recommend Galaga if you're a fan of the old one for $10.
Actually, looks really cool.
You can't go wrong. And remember, one of the great things about Xbox Live Arcade, which I got to give them credit for this over the PS3 and even Steam, is you can download a trial of any game on Xbox Live Arcade and play it for free for at least a level or two.
I do use that quite a bit.
Oh, so do I. I mean, it's great. It's actually the best thing about Xbox 360 downloadable titles, of which I've been playing Trenched. Have you guys heard about Trenched?
I have not heard anything about it.
Okay,
what is the story
it's by
there?
Double Fine, who did Psychonauts and Brutal Legend.
Dude.
So that should pique your interest.
Yeah, no, I'm in.
Okay.
I'm in right now. What is
Tower
the
defense
game?
It? Tower defense.
Love me some tower defense.
Meets almost a mech warrior-like quality.
Wow.
But but from a third-person perspective. So check this out. Instead of a mech, you've got a trench on legs walking around. And what's cool about it is you can upgrade your trench, you can add additional weapons to it, you can customize your weapons. It's got such a nice progression, a good storyline. It takes place in an alternate reality post-World War I. However, you know what this game reminds me of, which really is what sold me on it? The sense of humor in this game and the enemies in this game reminds me of Starship Troopers.
Wow.
Oh,
it's got that same dry humor that the movie had.
It's like you on purpose tried to set a trap to make me buy it.
$15.
And then at the end, you just pulled out a shotgun and shot me in the belly because there was no way I'm going to pass it up after you say Starship Troopers.
It's got
awesome.
same dry, bleak
the
humor.
same as shooting you in the belly?
Well, I'm going to say
because now you can't try it at all because you're bleeding out.
No, okay. My metaphor was like he wanted to get rid of me, so he constructed an elaborate trap, and I just about found myself when I was trapped. But then he revealed he had a shotgun on me the whole time, and he didn't even need to bother to make the trap, and he just blew me away. That's what I was trying to say.
All right.
So Trenched is currently available for the Xbox 360. I believe it's coming to the PS3 at some point and maybe PC, but Double Fine has pretty good community relations and forums, so if you're a gamer that is on a platform that this game is not coming out for, I highly recommend lobbying them to get it ported over because this is a lot of fun.
I could not believe when what was it, Brutal Legend didn't come out for PC, and I was so angry about it. Even though I loved everything they were trying to do with that, and I love Double Fine so much, I couldn't make myself walk all the way out into the living room to try to play the game, especially because the kids would be around all the time. But this game will actually get me out to the living room to download it and play it out on the Xbox.
We should show some of the enemies because the enemies are really kind of creepy and scary looking and intense, which I think is
it's got a comic book look to it. Now, and I don't mean that in a bad way. Sort of like a modern day cool art. It's not necessarily trying to be overly realistic, but it's realistic enough that you kind of feel like you're in another world.
Oh, and if I couldn't possibly make it more enticing, there's multiplayer.
So we can LAN party it.
Yes. I mean, I've been playing this game a lot over the last couple days. It's really cool. I mean, everything about it speaks to me. And normally tower defense games I find kind of boring.
Oh, I love tower defense games.
Really?
Yeah.
But in this, the way that they did it, and I even like mech games, when you think about mech games being so sim-like, I like the perspective with it. I like the twist on it. It's a lot of fun. I cannot recommend Trenched enough. $15, Xbox Live Arcade for the Xbox 360.
So totally buying that.
Now I'm going to completely switch gears because you're going to say this dude's really into Trenched and he's really into this next game, and I'm going there. For the iOS, for the iPhone, launched today or yesterday, Degrassi has come to the iPhone. And
I don't know what Degrassi is. Tell me about it.
Degrassi is a long-running Canadian series about teenagers in Canada. And
oh my God.
seriously, people should know, like, okay, you got to you got to watch the show because first off, I will say this to Degrassi's credit.
This is a bigger switch than I expected.
Name one other show.
I just opened up the page and I saw the screenshot of it. I thought that was a mistake. I thought I clicked on the wrong thing.
Name one other show about teenagers that has run for 11 years. The current version of the series is in its 11th season, running on Teen Nick in the U.S.
The Real World.
That's really, come on. That's your best comparison. The Real World. That's reality.
You said you named one other about teenagers that run longer. The Real World's like on 23 years.
Okay, here's why, and that's technically about 18-year-olds to 20-somethings. It's a little different. I mean, this is a high school show. So here's what's cool about the game, okay? Degrassi, which I grew up with the original Degrassi series, watching that in junior high school. They would show us Degrassi Junior High, to learn about issues like teen drinking and about like teen pregnancy and things like that.
Never ran into it. Weird.
Well, you're a little older. You're a little,
I'm a lot older.
Yes, that's why it wasn't.
Drinking was legal when I was your
they have a new version of Degrassi that's now in its 11th season. It's a very good teen soap opera. But here's what's cool about this game, and here's why I'm going on about this game. This game is a social simulation, similar to the Japanese social simulation and dating sims, of which never come out in the U.S. But there's been this rich history of having these dating sims that come out that are very sort of hardcore social RPG-like games where you're interacting with people and having branching storylines. And what's cool about the Degrassi game, and the reason why I mention it, is because that's what it is. They've essentially taken this series and its characters and made a social simulation where you're deciding who to be friends with and how events progress based on which path you take of who you want to befriend as a new student in this school.
I don't know if you're selling me on this.
There are mini games.
I mean, I was starting to. You perked my interest with the grand tradition of the Japanese dating sims because that sounds awesome. But then all of a sudden, I started imagining it in the Degrassi universe, and I lost interest.
But you're deciding, which activities you want to get involved with. I mean, if you like those type of games, if you've been curious about those type of games, this one for 99 cents on the App Store is worth checking out.
I think I'm going to have to give you a yellow card here.
And wait, there are also mini games, including Whack-A-Mole and Skee Ball and Simon,
Skee-Ball.
where you're having to do patterns. All I'm saying is for 99 cents, I was impressed how it didn't feel like shovelware, how it actually felt fair. Because I've played Japanese dating sims before. I used to do a couple of features on them back when I was at GameSpot, sitting there trying to translate our way through games like Bloody Bride, where you're like a vampire teenager. Seriously, that's what that.
No, I know. There's cool stuff.
Yeah. So this is not the Americanized. This is the Canadian version of that. So
it's not even the Canadian version of Bloody Bride, though.
Bloody Bride really wasn't
like
bloody.
Sweet Valley High.
Bloody Bride was kind of like Sweet Valley High, dude. I mean, you were a vampire, but you were at school.
You were a vampire. It makes all the difference.
It was a good name for a game.
Yeah.
The game wasn't really bloody.
All right, fine.
Yeah.
I'll take your word for it.
I'm just putting this out there for people that have always been curious about the Japanese dating sims or social simulations. The Degrassi game is that, but in English. Check it out at if you're into that sort of thing.
Yellow card for sentimentality. That's all. we'll accept your.
And the new series of Degrassi starts the day after Breaking Bad. I'm telenovela style, 4 days a week.
Interesting.
Yes.
All right. Good to know. Well, I actually am playing something this week. Tiny Tower for the iPod. For the iPad.
Look,
that's a hardcore cred.
Hey, if you can do Degrassi, I feel great about this.
Don't those in glass houses.
Yeah, I'm going to give myself a yellow card for playing Tiny Tower. What were you going to say, Brian?
I say, look, I am pro Tiny Tower. I am not calling. I take that yellow card out of your hand. I say, put that back in your pocket, sir. There's nothing wrong with Tiny Tower. This is a sim game.
It is fantastically addictive. Glenn, have you tried it?
No, I have not tried. I've been busy playing Degrassi.
It's kind of like Sim Tower, but it's not nearly as complex. And the thing is, I've been sitting here playing it through part of the show.
Well, that explains a lot.
Well, no, but that's the point. Is like you can actually the parts where I was distracted earlier in the show, I wasn't playing it. You could play this game while you're just watching TV, eating some dinner. You could actually read a book and play this game, which may not sound like a big recommendation, but it's got just enough to keep you interested and keep you on top of it. But it's not so in the way that it's going to take you away from. Hold on, I got to find this Tony Martin guy. Okay. Except for when you have to find people. But most of the time, it's just really it's intuitive. It's easy to play. Brian, you're playing it too?
No, but I, everything I've seen of it seems like something I could get into. My thing, and actually I'll hold off until, because I actually think I have a serious problem with my game.
Well, that's it. I'm playing Tiny Tower. I'm up to, let me see how many. I'm up to 16 levels. I just started playing it a couple days ago, and I'm taking the Brian Ibbott method for playing it. Brian Ibbott from Coverville has this huge tower, and people are like, "You must have spent in game, to buy." Stuff because you can do in-game payments. He's like, no, I haven't spent a dime on it. He's like, while I watch television, I just have it there, and every time I look down, I'll restock something. I'm gonna take a guy for an elevator ride, and it just kind of builds up over time.
As Tensor Guy in the chat room says, this concludes This Week in Wimpy Gaming.
Well, does it, Brian? Let's move on to you.
I'll tell you what. So far, we've had a Galaga reboot. We've had some cheap games on the 360. We've had Degrassi. We've had Tiny Tower. I would like to say that I am going to be the one to totally get us back on hardcore gaming track, but I won't, because I have been on the road nonstop this entire week, which means I spend a lot of time at airports and on airplanes, which means I have been playing a stupid amount of Drop 7. Have I already talked this one up on here?
You've talked it up before. I can't remember if you've talked it up on ATC or not.
I believe you mentioned it before.
Yeah, okay, here's the thing. Drop 7, if you haven't played it, and they recently got bought by Zynga, and I'm sorry to say that. Just look up Drop 7. It's 99 cents. There's a free version as well. I don't know why, but at some point about a year ago, I got in my head that I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to try to beat 1,000,000 points to hardcore. Now, on hardcore, if you're good, like for me personally, I was doing maybe 200,000 to 250,000 or whatever, and then occasionally like 450,000. But once I got that goal stuck in my head, like, it is stupid. I mean, an hour before I fall asleep, while I'm watching TV, I'm playing. While I got busted, I went to open to check the map while I was driving, and Drop 7 was open, and I went, well, let me just do one more move. While I was driving! You don't game while you drive? That's a terrible idea. And I've gotten so close, like 980,000 points on hardcore, and it's killing me. It's killing me. So Drop 7, I want to play something else, I really do, but I want to do it after I hit 1,000,000 points.
Oh, are you done?
What did you do?
Sorry, I nodded off a little there.
Oh, I hate you so much. What's funny is I see the chat room all laughing and saying, don't be a troll.
I know,
always
you don't have video return either.
I know, so I don't even know.
It was rude of me, and I apologize. I fell asleep. Alex is playing something real.
Sort of. It's not. I don't know how much this counts, but I hopped on.
Everything counts, buddy.
Everything
Bungie?
counts. Yeah. So I hopped on Halo Reach for the first time in a few months.
Thankfully, someone's shooting something.
Yesterday, shooting people badly. But this is because this year was Bungie's like big 20th anniversary thing, and on their self-proclaimed Bungie Day on 7/7, they're doing this thing called Bungie versus the World, where throughout the whole day, for 24 hours, there'll be a team of 4 Bungie guys playing every hour. They switch the teams up every hour.
So that was yesterday, July 7th? That
was yesterday.
Okay.
And they have a special playlist for that. So if you go in the playlist with 4 friends and you get matched up with these Bungie guys,
but you can't do it anymore, right?
Can't do it anymore. It's just yesterday.
So yesterday,
on Bungie Day,
when you went in, you could have been
playlist.
Gotten,
you could have.
Okay.
If you found these guys on your team, played against them, and if you won, they will mail you a steak.
Like an Omaha steak?
Like a real steak.
They would have made. Oh, wow.
I think it goes back to I think it was a Halo 3 medal or Halo Reach medal, something where if you like play a Bungie employee, you just get this medal that says Steak-tacular, or I can't remember what it was, but it's like it was a joke that they owe you a steak. But this time, if you actually play them on this day, they will actually mail you a steak.
I think you're the gamiest of all of us today.
That's sad.
Wait, Trenched.
Well, no,
I want to go back to Trenched.
Yeah.
Oh, and Tony was doing Call of Duty Escalation on PS3, our producer, as well as Tiny Tower. But how are we going to work Tony's recommendations? Is that we just report them? Tony never talks.
Tony's sitting there in the
speaks?
dog pound.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm sure Tony will insert video commentary on what we're saying about his playlist.
Right.
Because he'll write words in there on the video.
Yeah. Yeah, so he'll just put it in the edit. He'll put himself in post.
That's right.
All right, let's move on to retro.
I feel so bad that I forgot about this. So I need to wish a happy belated birthday to Sonic the Hedgehog.
Happy birthday, Sonic. Well done.
Sonic, 20 years old.
Good job. Nice rings.
So it seemed that's good. So it seemed like a perfect choice for Retro Game of the Week to talk about the original Sonic the Hedgehog and, also put in there Sonic 2. Really after that, though, I think you can kind of chart the decline of Sonic parallel to the decline of Sega, as Sega kept pumping out the titles and really running it into the ground. And now, we've seen Sonic, thankfully, come on every platform now through Sega, through Virtual Console. If you're looking to play Sonic the Hedgehog, there's no shortage of ways to play it. I think it's available even in Flash.
Yeah, you don't have to go to MIME anymore if you want to play it. There's plenty of ways to do it.
Oh, totally.
I'll tell you what. The whole thing about Sonic, I remember I had a TurboGrafx 16 and everyone else had a Sega Genesis. And I remember when, I was very into the war between the two because I could only afford one or the other. And I remember the moment I saw Sonic on somebody else's Genesis, I knew the war was over, that I'd lost. And it wasn't even the game itself. It was like the way you knew you were about to play something different was when you put the cartridge in and you turned it on. And for the first time, it didn't just say the Sega logo. It did the Sega.
Yeah.
Like that moment, that was like, oh, crap, this is something special. And then it would go so fast in a way that you had never seen. It looked, it was great because it looked like platformers that you were accustomed to, but just went so much faster. So it's like with an environment that had your brain set on Super Mario Brothers, but it just went 8 times faster.
Well, it was the blast processing, which didn't really exist, actually. That was entirely marketing speak. That was all hype and a creation of the marketing department. But it worked because, the Genesis actually couldn't even do as many colors as the Super Nintendo could do at once. This is back, of course, in an era where we're talking about simultaneous colors on screen. But with Sonic, they pushed the blast processing idea about it being a much faster game than Mario was. And that's really what helped it gain market share.
They just made it faster. There was nothing in the processor about it.
No, but it was a great catchy term.
Yeah.
Especially back then during the console wars when, something that simple to describe. Think about 16-bit. The way we were just, people couldn't comprehend what the megahertz were of the processing power, but just saying blast processing, I think it just stuck in people's minds as a gimmick that rang true. And Sonic the Hedgehog 1 was such a great game. I remember seeing that it's one of the first CESs that I went to in 1990 and just being blown away by how different it looked. Yet it had the same platform, as Brian was saying, the same qualities of a platform game, but just much faster, brighter colors, and a character that really stood out with attitude. Back when attitude counted for something.
Might have been its single biggest strength is that it used the trappings of another genre, and it really wasn't. It was kind of a platformer, but it was really it was a slightly new kind of game. But by using the trappings of a traditional platformer, really made it stand out.
And with Sonic 2, I was really into that. I like how they incorporated the half-pipe mode where you had the bonus round where Sonic was running and it switched to kind of a 3D perspective where it was Sonic and Tails. Now, some people in the chat realm are saying, Sonic 3 was good, Sonic and Knuckles, but for me, that's where it just really started to get crazy. Sonic and Knuckles, for me, that never really did it for me. I remember, Sega had the big launch event in 94 for Sonic and Knuckles. Mm-hmm. They had a bunch of us, they took us to Alcatraz where they had a competition for Sonic and Knuckles for people playing it. If you want to look at the decline of Sega, look at what they were spending on their press and media events back in the 90s. They were the most just lavish and over the top compared to what Nintendo was doing at the time.
Is there any saving Sonic, or is it just now living entirely off of retro feelings?
The problem is that ever since Sega became a third-party publisher and stopped doing a system, people have been wanting to see something new and different with Sonic, and especially they've been wanting to see a Sonic game on Nintendo or a Sonic and Mario game on Nintendo. And what do we get instead? Sonic and Mario at the Winter Olympics. Sonic and Mario at the Summer Olympics.
Yeah.
And I think we all have been waiting for that real crossover game, if they can find a way to merge the two.
The brilliance of Mario is that it has been able to reinvent itself over and over and over so that, people still get really excited about a new Mario game. People don't get excited about the new Sonic
because
games.
they ran the franchise into the ground.
What's the difference there? Why?
Well, we could do an entire 10-part series on the mismanagement of Sega.
Can you give a yellow card on saying that that Sonic ran the franchise into the ground, but somehow Mario?
No, but Mario diversified.
That is
Mario
insane.
Kart.
No, it's not insane at all.
Mario Kart, Luigi's Mansion, Wario.
that's
games.
running it into the ground.
But
But
no,
overexposure. That's what drives me nuts.
The only
Mario
reason I won't
Kart-
give a yellow card on that, Brian, is that those games have sold and have had good reviews. So you may be tired of it as a third-party observer, but they're successful.
Mario Kart is an awesome game in and of itself. It just so happens to feature Mario, and it's become its own standalone franchise. What I'm saying with Sonic, the problem is that they didn't diversify and do enough different with the character. I mean, this is cool to have the 3D perspective, but really aside from that, what else has there been that they've done to really push the boundaries of Sonic in a way that's caught on with people? If you were to point to Sonic as a character and its successful franchises,
I think Nintendo is closer to running Zelda into the ground than it is Mario.
I think Nintendo's redone the same Zelda game maybe once or twice too many,
Yeah.
where it hasn't felt different enough.
And I'm a huge Zelda fan.
Now with Mario, the original Mario franchise, I think that they've been very smart to keep it few and far between the official Super Mario games.
Right.
There haven't been that many of them.
Right.
I mean, if you were to, especially over the last 20 years, if you were
And
to
the
look at the
Donkey
Donkey Kong, with that, that's kind of...
They're keeping those really few and far.
Yeah. But do you remember like Donkey Konga? That was one of the first rhythm games.
Yeah.
Where it came with bongos. I remember playing that on what was it, the GameCube?
Yeah.
Like bongoing along to like My Own Private Idaho.
I liked Luigi's Mansion too.
And there's a sequel coming out for the 3DS.
I'm kind of excited about that.
There's not a lot to get excited about.
I know, because it's exactly the
unfortunately.
same. It's the same game except in 3D.
You know, I'm looking forward to the new Mario Kart for 3DS. That actually I'm looking forward to. And with Sonic, please, Sega, give us something new and interesting with the Sonic franchise now that it's 20 years old.
Hey, I know this isn't video gaming, but since we're talking retro, coming up this week, July 12th, the birthday of the Etch-a-Sketch, 1960.
Wow.
And July 13th, 1944, birthday of the of Erno Rubik, who invented the Rubik's.
Now, for the Etch-a-Sketch, do you remember Etch-a-Sketch gaming with those little plastic overlays of mazes you would lay over your Etch-a-Sketch? How bad were our childhoods when that was considered interactive?
That was parents to give you something because they couldn't afford to get you an Atari yet.
Yeah, or they couldn't even get you a Game & Watch system, or one of those little terrible LCD video games.
Well, here you can play a game.
Yeah,
a video
lay this
game.
down over
it's
your
like
Etch-a-Sketch.
a video game.
Hey, I had fun with those for a while.
They keep you occupied for a
You
little
should bring one of those. You should find one of those. Bring in the studio with
I haven't seen them in.
We can have a
20 years.
race. Who can make it through the Etch-a-Sketch maze the fastest? That'll be part of the Twit Arcade on our LAN party.
That reminds me,
Yes!
we've got to take a quick break and thank our sponsor, Ohio Arts Makers. No, we would do an ad break here. That's the point of that. And then we could possibly do an interview afterwards, should we have an interview subject. But we don't today. So let's go on into Random Awesome of the Week.
Now, Brian pointed this out to me, which is a Star Wars mod for Call of Duty 4. And looking at the video, I proclaimed on Twitter, this looks better than anything I have seen LucasArts do, probably since the original Force Unleashed.
So
and because
this is a LucasArts
it's
mod.
automatically
Not a
balanced
LucasArts mod.
Oh, it isn't.
because it's running on Call of Duty 4, and it's probably likely already balanced and everything. It probably is more fun. Not only does it look better, but it's more fun and a better game than anything we've seen from Lucas as far as when it comes to the arcade experience. And I should point out that I believe, I don't know if it's over, but when it was during the Steam sale, I think Call of Duty 4 was only $9 for PC.
That's insane. So for a couple bucks and some mods, you too can experience this game.
Every generation has its own games. Man in beret holds a gun. Every generation has its own legends. This one is dedicated to all Call of Duty and Star Wars fans out there.
So I think between that covers just about everyone.
Black Monkey presents a total conversion for Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare.
There we go. Now, here's the thing. Why hasn't LucasArts done a modern Star Wars first-person shooter? They had first-person shooters. They've done them before. What was the one? Star Wars, what was it, Stormtrooper?
I think they've been throwing all of their resources and effort into Old Republic, frankly. That would be my guess.
LucasArts has more than just that. I mean, the LucasArts
No,
has,
I know. You're thinking, like, knock off a few of the lower-selling efforts that they do and spend some time on something like this? Well, maybe they don't want to detract from the Old Republic. They want to have one brand, one dominant brand out there.
Yeah, Star Wars Battlefront. That's the one I was thinking of.
Jedi Knight was pretty good. I mean, I liked Jedi Knight quite a bit.
Yeah.
For what it was at the time. I don't know how well it's aged.
But a really solid multiplayer Star Wars shooter would be fantastic.
Sure. Although, again, man, it's like I only have eyes for Star Wars The Old Republic right now. It's all I can think about.
Yes. And if you want to check out a link to this full video, check out my Twitter. I'm at Glenn Rubenstein on Twitter. I'm posting a link right now to the full video with info on how to download this mod, which is our random awesome of the week. And we forgot to play the intro, but that's fine. We'll get it next week.
Do we have an intro for Random Awesome of the Week? Okay, so when I say Random Awesome of the Week, the intro plays right then. That's why it's a beta. So here, let's practice. So let's move on to our Random Awesome of the Week.
Everybody's a winner.
It's totally Scott Fletcher. In fact, I think they used that on Final Score.
That's good. Hey, before we move on past Star Wars, is it now confirmed that you have Tor Fever as well, Glenn?
Tor Fever sounds terrible.
The doctor,
I love it.
Kind of like an STD.
The Tor Fever.
What
Tests
Tor
are
Fever?
in. He went to the doctor.
Yes, Tor Fever.
He's been diagnosed
Are
with
you
Tor
TOR
Fever.
positive?
He's
That's
a
what I
huge
wanted.
fan of Tor published science fiction books.
I'm looking forward to it, but here's the thing about games I'm looking forward to is I try not to get obsessed in looking forward to them because it just makes it that much harder to wait.
You know what? I have found on a great number of games that I had more fun anticipating the game than
That is
the
the
actual
other
game
problem,
itself.
is if I anticipate it too much, I will be sorely disappointed.
But you see, I don't regret the 1.5 year love affair I had with the idea of Spore. Like the fact that Spore itself totally sucked didn't make me regret. Like I'll still go back and watch that demo and be like, game looks awesome.
Now, by the way, El Basso on Twitter just pointed out the E3 demo video of BioShock Infinite was released public today on GTTV.
Yeah.
How different is that from the BioShock Infinite trailer that we watched?
I think it's fuller and more complete.
There's just more stuff.
There's
in
more
it, right?
stuff.
More time.
And that's part of the thing, just so people know that are listening, part of the reason why we're not doing heavy amounts of just showing videos of gameplay footage, one, we've had some like YouTube takedown notices before when we just straight out streamed trailers of games. And given that we're still in beta and the only way you can get us right now is on YouTube if you want to check out these shows, we're not quite pushing the envelope with that. And then also because it just makes for a lot of dead air in the show when it's just like, hey, let's watch something together.
And there's a lot of people who already do that.
And I think in the after show, that's something we'll be able to do with the Twit Arcade with the LAN party we're
Yeah.
going to be doing once we're up and running.
sure.
Is when we have downtime, we can always just show trailers and talk about them.
I do think there was so much attention on that BioShock trailer today that maybe we should have thrown it into news. Now,
I was thinking about
when
it.
I'm kind of hindsight.
It's tough, though, because like with the Deus Ex: Human Revolution, it's kind of like, well, here, let's show a little bit of it. Yep, we're looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Let's move on. And I don't know, I mean, and that's part of what we're talking about with the identity of the show, that we've been having these discussions both internally and with those that email us at twitgameshow@gmail.com, or people that have even tweeted at me at Glenn Rubenstein on Twitter. People having discussions about what do we want to do with the show that makes it, what is our USP? That's unique selling point. That's British. I picked that up.
Oh, or we
You
could
know.
go with SLA,
Ooh.
our service level agreement.
Yes. So what is the unique selling point and how we're approaching this? And I think that's what we're trying to figure out is, there are a lot of shows that cover trailers. Like we're just going to watch what's out there and then talk about what's coming up. There's a lot of shows that cover this is what we're playing, and that's all we're going to do is just talk about what games we're playing that week. And there's some shows that just talk about the news. And we're trying to find a nice balance, I think, to figure out what suits our strengths. And of course, having interviews when those are possible, finding different ways to just change it up a little bit. So we're not doing the same show each each week. And that was actually a good piece of feedback that I got from someone.
By the way, we're in the feedback segment.
Yes.
If you hadn't figured that out.
Richard Yastrab actually had a nice piece of feedback where he said, you know how comic book pages all have different pane configurations? Some are 4 boxes, some are big one on top and 2 squares underneath. At the Controls is not static. You can change it up and based on what's going on that week, based on the format and configuration. And it's not to say whatever happens, but we can have different formats and adapt them to the week's content. And kind of how we talked about before, if Portal 2 had come out this week, we would have done an entire Portal 2 show.
Yeah.
Because some games are that deserving of it. Elsewhere in feedback, we got, let's see, Mark Hudson says, hey, Tom and the rest of the hosts, will you be using only consoles and PCs in the Twit Arcade LAN party, or will we be using Mac as well? It's important for us to clarify, Mark. When we say PC, we also mean Macintosh.
Yeah, Mac, look, there
We're
was
using
a time...
PC the way it's supposed to be used. Is that what you're going to say, Brian?
No, I'm going to say there was a time when there was a divide between the PCs and our Mac brethren, but finally we have come together to face a new threat in the consoles, and so we must crush them, and only together as a group can we do so. And to be honest, the difference between the two is really small. Now that you could run Windows on your Macs anyway to play Windows games, or nowadays natively the Steam Play makes it possible when you buy Team Fortress 2, you get them for both. We are all PC gamers.
Well, PC means personal computer. And when IBM came out with the IBM PC, it started to confuse the issue because some people said PC and meant generically a personal computer, like an Apple II or a Commodore 64.
And in fact, people used to call Windows-based PCs IBM.
And then, they did. I remember that. And then it became, when it started to settle into Windows versus Mac, people started calling the IBM PC-based computers that were running Windows PCs and Macs.
And then for a while it was a weird
Macs
x86 platform.
They are personal computers.
Remember pre-Pentium x86?
Anyway, it's like saying hacker and meaning bad people.
Yes.
It's not,
there's a little bit of nuance.
Not right.
Also, in the email, Brandon Cooper writes in and says, with all the MMOs going free-to-play, do you think it will be better for every MMO game going forward to just be free-to-play and find ways to monetize from some type of in-game upgrades or in-game economy that you have to pay into? From your friends in the chat realm, don't read this part.
Don't read this part. Oh crap! You know what? There was an interesting story that we talked about on Tech News Today earlier this week, saying that the amount of money you make from in-game payments definitely exceeds the amount that you charge for games in mobile platforms.
Yeah.
So I wonder if that will also translate in MMOs and desktops, because in the mobile platform, it's like, oh, well, I'm going to download something for free. No problem. People will even pay 99 cents. What they're finding is when you make in-game payments the only way, people will download for free, start playing the game, get caught up, and then want to pay $4.99 for some mojo or some bucks or whatever they need to. And so you'll end up getting 5 times the money out of them that you would get, or more, I'm just making that number up, than you would get for the 99 cents for the game in the beginning.
I'm ashamed to admit I spent probably $10 to get add-on different tables for the skee-ball game I downloaded for free.
Exactly. And so that's how they get you, because when you think of spending money to download the game, you think differently than when you're caught up in the game and like, I need more levels, I need more skee balls, or whatever it is you need.
Here's the other thing. Here's the other thing, too, is whenever you buy a game up front, you are taking a gamble. You're saying, I'm going to give you my $10, $20, $50, $60 and really hope I get that much value out of it. But when you download a game for free and it comes time to buy something, even if it's $10 for bonus tables or whatever, you're like, I've already gotten $10 of value out of this game. I'd love to get $10 more now. And then so you feel different spending that money in there.
Now, what's interesting, though, is I don't think you're going to see a lot of AAA top-level MMOs. I don't think you're ever going to see one of those launches free-to-play. Not with something that has a huge investment time. I know Adam12 and I in the chat have a gentleman's bet going, although I believe he wanted to make it for $5, that he thinks The Old Republic will launch as a free-to-play title. And to that, I say shenanigans. That there's no way that's going to happen, because they need to
He knows his Star Wars, though.
They need to get their $60 per copy to recoup some of that cost. When you're spending tens of millions of dollars,
hold on though. So wait, launch free to play, like it's free to download, and then there's no monthly fee for the Old Republic?
I'm going to say neither of those will happen. Adam12 bet me $5 last week that will be the case. So, but I'm saying it won't be the free copy, and it won't be free to play from the get go.
I think it would be smart for them to make it a free copy. I think it
Yes,
might
that-
even
yeah.
be smart for them not to charge a monthly fee if they had a really
No
good
way.
in-game payment system
No
set up.
way.
But I don't think they'll do it.
Yeah, they need to make their money.
Well,
need to make
I
their
think
money
they would
back.
make more money if they did it that way.
In theory.
I think they would. But they'd
It's a
have to have
gamble.
it set up exactly right. I don't think it's even that big of a gamble, but people are conservative. They don't they're afraid of new things that are unproven, and they're gonna want to make their money guaranteed, even if it is less. So I think it'll have a monthly fee. I think it's 50-50 on whether they would give it away free just to get a big footprint out there.
I think that it's a good idea, but here's the thing. When you look at the launch of an MMO, I mean, DC Universe Online did this, other MMOs have done it. They have, when it launches, you can sometimes pay $200 to get a lifetime sub, or you can prepay a year for $100. They're trying to get as much money as possible at launch from the people that are eagerly anticipating it, because that's going to be a huge chunk of change that you're bringing in of the game's total revenue. That's going to be a huge percentage of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's greed up front rather than long-term thinking. which
Definitely.
is
Now, I
definitely
think with
the norm.
smaller and indie games, I think there's huge potential for that, but I don't think you're going to see a AAA top-shelf MMO do it unless it's like a World of Warcraft situation where they're like, man, we're they're like the tobacco industry. We're starting to lose customers. We're starting to lose people. How can we get more people addicted to our product?
Except
I know.
they're not killing them.
Let's
just
give it out.
we
Well,
think.
arguable.
Most of the time.
It's a different kind of slower death. But some people call that living. And hey, we can't argue with that. We're all guilty ourselves. So I think that's the thing, though, is when they look at it from a revenue stream potential situation, that's where you're going to find it later in the lifespan, once they've already milked the money out of these suckers. I mean, the hardcore
They'll
fans.
just piss off all the people who
Yeah.
actually paid for the game.
Which, like we saw in Team Fortress 2, that's part of the issue. Is
Yeah.
I mean, and I wonder about that, actually, and I would put that out to the chat realm. How do you feel about being an early adopter who spends that money early on and pays a subscription fee where it's later given away for free? I mean, I know a lot of people were griping about Portal 2 being brand new at $60 and then on sale a week and a half later for $35 because Kmart did some insane pricing with it. A lot of people felt ripped off there that they bought it for full price. I mean, how do you feel about essentially being the early adopter, making the larger cash investment in a title?
I mean, I don't even know if it's fair to even put Team Fortress 2 in that same category, because Team Fortress 2, number one, had such a low bit price to entry to begin with. 3.5 years ago, it was $20. And so then, and they've had multiple sales where you could buy them for $5 at a time on Steam. When they went for $5, I bought a whole bunch to give to my friends, and then they had the occasional free play weekends or whatever. And every time they did it, it renewed interest in the game and made it more fun to play. So when it did go free to play, I was like, good on you guys, man. Let's keep this party going.
All right, I think we've got a good show going on here. I think we're getting pretty close to Gold Master, and we move into the new studio in 2 weeks. So after that point, it's all on us.
Yeah.
When we want to go live. But thanks everybody for watching.
Definitely. And in the meantime, feel free to hit us up, twitgameshow@gmail.com, or you can follow me on Twitter @Glenn Rubenstein. So until next time, this is Glenn Rubenstein on behalf of Tom Merritt, Brian Brushwood, Alex Gumpel, Tony Wang, and myself, reminding you that time enjoyed is never time wasted, especially when you're at the controls. See you next week.
Oh, it's just music, no video.